So with cloud-based digital signage platforms like Screenspace, you'll need to navigate to a web page and then log in with your login credentials. The web page in this case is screenspace.live/login. You'll need to enter your email address and then the password that you've created. And once you've done this, you'll be able to sign in. So before we come and look at the software, let's take a look at the hardware required to make this solution work. So this is the BitVu Freedom Player. The BitVu Freedom Player is a small but powerful digital signage piece of hardware, and this will receive all of the updates and changes you make via its Wi-Fi connection. You'll see from the dimensions on the right hand side that it's roughly the size of a credit card, so it is small but mighty. It has a HDMI port which you'll connect directly to your screen with, and also it has USB power. So now we understand the player, let's take a look at the setup and config that's required to get the player working. So if we go back to where we were at the beginning, in the advert section, we need to go to where it says your name, which is the account section. Click my account, and then click USB setup. Once we're here, what we need to do is create a name for our player. So in this case, this could be the reception player. Decide on its orientation, its HDMI output, and then you need to enter your Wi-Fi network details and your Wi-Fi password. And once you've got all this information, you select the plus signs to add them to the config file. And once you've populated all this information, create profile will appear and you select that. It asks you to confirm. And once you've done this, it will download a config file, which you can see in the bottom of my screen here. Once you've got this config file, you will then need to use a USB to put the config file on, and you will then be able to plug this in to the player. Once you've plugged this into the player, it will upload the information it needs and it will be able to connect to the Wi-Fi, and it will be able to download all of the updates that it needs to in order to keep your content up to date. So now we've configured our player, let's take a look at the advert section. So when we first appear at the advert section, you'll see lots of content that you've already created and labelled. We can go into existing content just simply by clicking on it. We can amend this content, resize it, or add additional content to that advert. Make sure you save your changes, and if you want to call this an edit, you simply type it into this bar here and you save this advert. So now when we go back, we'll notice we've got a Sharp logo edit 2 as well as the original there in our advert section. If we want to create an advert from scratch, simply click New and New Advert, and we'll be given an option of a landscape or a portrait orientation, as well as seeing lots of templates down below. If we want to make content from scratch, click the blank template, and we can add an image, a video, or text. If we add an image, we get a box like this, which we can resize, and we right click and we have an option to open a file from our desktop or one that's existing from the library. If I pick the library here, this will show lots of content that's already in our media library. This is content that's already been uploaded before, such as this direct view video wall here. If we do want to add from our desktop, we click Open File, and this will show you all of the content within your desktop that's available to you. Select the bit of content and press Open, and this will upload into the signage for you, as you can see here. We can then name this and save it. And that's how we create adverts. So now we've created our adverts, let's take a look at playlists. So when we go into the playlist section at the top, you'll see we've got some existing playlists here, and we can also add new playlists, of course. So if we click New and New Playlist, we need to name it first of all. And then in order to add our content to the playlist, we simply drag content into this pane here at the top. And you will notice that the content defaults to 10 seconds for images. And for videos, this will default to the length of the video. As you can see here, it's 167 seconds. I'm going to save this by hitting the Save Playlist button. And now that's saved, we can come back to that at any point in the future. Saving that playlist does not, however, publish it. So if we go back into the playlist we just created, you'll notice there is a Save and Publish button. So if you hit Save and Publish, it will then ask you where you want to publish this content to, and you'll have a selection of your screens here, as well as any groups you may have created. You can see I have one demo screen, which is appearing offline. We can publish to Danny's demo screen. Of course, my demo screen appears offline because it isn't a real player. Yours would all sit there and show us online. That's now been published to the screen. If we want to come into a playlist and make any changes, we can reorder content, and we can also amend the duration that each bit of content plays for. Remember to publish if you want to send that content straight out once you've made those changes. And that's how you make a playlist. So now we've created a playlist and we've also amended it. Let's take a look at schedules. So the next tab along, and we've got some pre-made ones here, lunchtime schedule and 24/7. So what the schedule does is it dictates which playlist plays on a certain screen at a certain time or on a certain day. So if we go into our lunchtime schedule here, you can see that it presents you with a calendar with dates and times, and we can see that a certain playlist is running around the lunchtime from 11:30 to 2 p.m. We can see a selection of playlists on the right hand side, and we can schedule other content at other times as well. So if I just come out of this schedule and click New Schedule, we can create a brand new custom schedule. And all we need to do is select a playlist from our choices down in the bottom right corner and drag it onto a certain day at a certain time. As you can see here, that's displaying at 2:30, but I'm going to amend that back to 2 p.m. There we are. We can select a default playlist. So this is a playlist which will play if for any reason the playlist you've selected can't. So I have a default playlist made here, which I can drag into the default playlist section. So I'm going to save this as custom schedule. Now, what you will notice is that that only plays on Friday the 28th of June. Now, if I go back into this, there is a repeat button. And if I tick that box, we can make that daily repeat, a weekly repeat, or a monthly repeat. If I select weekly and update, you'll now notice when I switch the view to monthly, that we get this every Friday at the same time periods. You can see that much clearer now. As we flick through the months, it's exactly the same. Again, like the playlist, we need to make sure we hit save and publish if we want to make this live. And again, just like the playlists, we need to select which screens or which groups this applies to. So now we've had a look at schedules, let's take a look at the screen tab, which is the next tab along. So when you come in here, you will see a list of groups across the top, and you will see a list of screens down here. I've only got one demo screen at the moment. And as you can see, we have a Wi-Fi signal strength bar, which is really useful if you've got a particular black spot within the building and you need to maybe strengthen the Wi-Fi or move the position of the player slightly. We have a current playout tab, and this shows you exactly which bit of content and which playlist is on screen at that time, with the number of ads and the duration of the playlist. Last contacted is the last time that the player received new information. Orientation describes whether it's landscape or portrait, and output is the resolution that the player is outputting. Time zones handy if you have screens in multiple different time zones. And then the action section is really important. So this is a drop-down menu. When we open this, we can remove screens from groups, we can restart players, reset players, or update players. Restarting the player is almost like rebooting it. It does not reboot the screen itself, just the player that's powering the content to the screen. And we can do that from anywhere. And the reset player button completely resets that player. Now, I recommend you only do that if you've been instructed to do so on our advice. And you can also update the player as well from there with the new firmware. So we've got groups across the top here. We can add a new group. You can see we've got plenty here. And if we just go into our reception one, which is what Danny's demo falls under, and press publish, we can actually publish content directly to a group from this section rather than via the scheduling section. So if we click on a playlist and publish, it will then publish directly to that group of screens. Now let's take a look at the support tab. So when you click on the support tab, it will open a new web link in your browser, and this is the support portal. So you can search for certain information. You can see handy get started guides or guides specific to creating an advert. or publishing an advert, which we've been through. So if we click Getting Started, you can have a full introduction here on using screen space, for example, how to create, organize and publish content. And it'll give you a quick and easy run through of how to do that. If I take a step back here, we can look at things like supported browsers, things that are a little bit more technical. And we can also look at training videos directly from their website as well. Gives you a handy link to this training video on YouTube. But of course, if you need to search for anything specific, we can go directly to that particular article. So now we've had a look at the support section, let's look at the last section we've not looked at, which is the account section. If we click on our name and then my account, we'll see there's account overview and there's the USB setup area, which we went through earlier. Now, in the account overview, we've got a list of all of our colleagues that have access to the portal. We've got a password reset button, our contact details, and an overview of the account usage.